it. Well. We are back from a 7-month hiatus for our newest edition of the TBD podcast. The boys are back, needless to say. And instead of an icebreaker for us today, we're going to have more of life updates, sports updates, what has been happening in the meantime as we have been conjuring up 7 months of data for this one episode. So shout out to our listeners who are back with us and our subscribers who were faithful and didn't unsubscribe during our wanderings in the wilderness. But with that being said, we're excited to get back to it and hopefully have some consistency rolling forward in the spring. But yeah, Hank and Keenan, you guys want to provide any updates from this past 7-month span? I know we can kind of all pop in and share some things, and then we'll get rolling into the meat of it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Graham. Yeah, things have been good. I'm now a married man, different than the just engaged man that I was last time. We all are ringed up now fully. I was the last to join the crew, but we're there. Got married in June, and things are going great. And otherwise, not a lot has been going on, but man, I'm glad to be back.
Amen.
Yeah,
Keenan.
Beautiful married man. Not but 8 minutes away from Grace and I. It's wonderful. It's amazing. Keep this in the future. Might be moving closer to us based off conversations last week. Maybe even as close to neighbors. But we'll say that for maybe another podcast. And not too much of an update on the Street Matter household. Freezing our tails off right now with the winter wonderland that is flowing through the Midwest down to the Southeast. Gosh, work's going good, life's good. Gosh, I'm ready for spring. But man, it was a disappointing fall with Penn State football, to be honest with you. Definitely got let down there. Rams lost on Sunday, so that was a bummer as well. But man, life's good and glad to be back.
Amen. As most of y'all probably don't know, or although actually, to be fair, I think everybody that listens is just our family, so I think people probably do know. I did move to Knoxville, which is actually the skies of Knoxville, Tennessee. So I probably should be wearing what Hank's wearing right now, if anything, embracing Rocky Top Nation. But Mary and I moved out there in the summer. Since then, we have been having a blast. I survived a tornado, specifically that almost hit my school. So that was a blessing from the Lord to survive a tornado. Currently surviving a snowstorm as well. And so we're really getting all of the elements. Wouldn't be surprised to see an earthquake or a tsunami coming up soon here on the horizons, but we'll see about that. We also adopted a kitten, not a son, but a kitten. So if I can grab him at some point, his name is Ronald. We'll get him in here in the frame at some point, but needless to say, similarly to Keenan, probably a much more disappointing football season for Arkansas, but we can get there when we get there. But with that being said, I think we're all agreeing we're here sitting during the snowmageddon that we're experiencing, and we're just thinking about the only thing that can bring some true heat and joy to this snowmageddon life is going to be the heat or is going to be the fire that we spit during these bars of this episode. So I'm excited for us to move forward and roll into a little bit of a sports discussion as we move along.
I think it was this time last year we started the podcast.
I believe it. I believe you're right. Right around the time of step sing, which
it's something about the cold weather and playoff football and step sing. It just brings out the best in us.
It does.
It definitely does.
And it brings out the best.
That's a beautiful
Ronald as well.
Oh, Ronald!
Oh, there he is.
Ronald. I love it.
That is a beautiful kitten right there.
He is. So, yeah. Well, we're gonna have some non-sports stuff as we've always talked about, but today will be kind of our bread and butter as far as that goes with sports. And so, the main topic of discussion that we've thought about with this episode is talking about what does it look like to underachieve or to overachieve in a sport. We know that this is something that happens quite frequently. You get a lot of lofty expectations, and then sometimes you get really poor expectations and things go a different way. So especially as we get to look at a complete full college football season, which was a great one, by the way. And, you know, we're down to our final, what is it, 8 teams in the NFL playoffs? We're down to the final 8.
Yep.
What jumps out at you with that talking point in mind, with overachieving, underachieving? What teams do you feel like, you know, embrace that? And, you know, as you guys have definitely played as well, and are honestly at this point, you guys are both fans of teams with high expectations typically. You know, what does that look like for coaches and players to embrace that?
I would say, Hank, maybe you have some thoughts as well. And the first team that comes to mind, and this is low hanging fruit from, and this might be crazy to say, is I think a team that overachieved this past year in college football is Alabama. I would have said 5-6 weeks into the season, I would have said, gosh, this is and from my perspective, and y'all would echo this, it's gonna be a great year. Alabama's not going to be in the playoffs because they did not look good at the end of the year. And so I would say, and that's the Saban effect, to be honest with you. He's just the best of the best, and definitely on the heels of him retiring, and shows how great he is. Probably an team that was not projected to be in the college football playoff 4 weeks or 5 weeks into the season overachieved, in my opinion. Now, granted, can you say an Alabama team ever is overachieving? I'm not quite sure, but another team that comes to mind is Washington. Not a ton of just like ridiculous recruits. Obviously they're on the West Coast, so they fly under the radar to begin with. But a team that I think for a lot of the season, even coming into the Pac-12 championship, Oregon was 10-point favorites in that game.
Crazy.
And so just continually overachieving from what the narrative was from the media, and in particular from a lot of people in the nation. And so I think those are 2 low-hanging fruits that are just overachievers that come off.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, expectations are such a weird thing. I think for fans especially, but I think it comes into, like you said, with players too, and how they approach a game, and how they prepare, and what their kind of what their mental says, like when they enter a game. And like when I think of like the Washington Oregon games, right, I kind of feel like Washington has nothing to lose, and they're out there and they've got a lot of momentum, but I don't think anybody's expecting them to beat them both times, and they did it. And I think a lot of that has to do with the players go into it and they're just like, you know what, let's prove them wrong, first off, and second off, if we lose, that's what they said was going to happen. I think that it all plays into it. But I feel like expectations are such a challenging thing to work with, especially from, I think, a coaching perspective, because I think fans, when you have even 1 year of success, the fans are immediately going to expect that the next season. And a lot of times, other than, Alabama, which is the best dynasty college football has ever seen, every other team pretty much in all of college football has not met those expectations year over year, other than a few of, maybe college blue bloods, you could say. And that's got to be so challenging as a coach. I think about Tennessee. We had the amazing year 2 years ago, and then come out and honestly have probably a normal year, probably a year that most people would have expected for us. We're not amazing, we're not bad, pretty solid. And but fans, I feel like I have more of a realistic expectation of, I'm enjoying this. We get 8 wins and it's great, and we get a bowl win. But a lot of fans, they're frustrated every single game because we're not winning it all. And I think that can also ruin the fan experience too, if you go into it with way overblown expectations, because then you'll never be satisfied. I mean, if you win a game by 10 instead of 30, you're going to be frustrated. And so it's a wide range. It affects the fans, coaches, players. It affects it all. And teams over and underachieve every single season.
I think we're heading into an era of college football where expectations will be met more often than not with the 12-team playoff, right? A team like Tennessee, a team like Penn State, and even in Arkansas in some years could have had those expectations met by just making the playoff if we had a 12-team playoff. And so
you're right.
I think it will be unique to see the standard set, the bar almost coming down in a lot of ways to meet those expectations. But I think in general, you'll see fan bases happier. You'll see college coaches staying at universities longer because they're hitting the expectations, which is the 12-team playoff, which I think is good for the game, right? I feel like we're in an era where if you don't perform in 2 to 3 years, you can't. And we're not giving coaches enough time to really see if they can make it. And I think having the 12-team playoff will help with that.
Yeah,
With
definitely.
that, with that in mind, I completely agree that it feels almost like every bowl game has lost its flavor if you're not like even New Year's Six bowl games. I mean, we got so many guys sitting out on New Year's
Or to
Day.
Florida State.
Yeah, I mean, I know, LSU guys, I don't think they really were caring. I mean, shout out, they did win the game, but, we have a lot of people not caring. Definitely adds value to your end of your season. Maybe the one argument could be eventually we could get there one day that maybe some of the regular season games won't matter as much. We don't have to talk about that right now, but I wonder though, especially with what you're saying, Keenan, with the coach longevity, I wonder if, though, at some point with the universities, are they wanting to hang on to a coach for not getting them into the top 4 because they realize how lofty of a standard is? But now, if you're a high caliber program and you don't get into the top 12 for a season or two, are you instantly gone? Like,
Yeah,
if you don't get in the top 12, I mean, because now it's okay. You just got 8 more chances to get in there. If you're a high caliber program and you're not in there for let's say 2 years, and that's the expectation, do you think that's even maybe in some ways more risky for some coaches?
Yeah,
that's a good point.
absolutely. Go ahead.
It's just, definitely. I think for the coaches that, well, I mean, I was going to say for it raises the stakes for certain coaches, especially, but I mean, honestly, it probably just raises the stakes for all of the coaches at the top, because even the coaches that are part of those teams that are, contenders for the top 4, I mean, especially if they don't make the 12, I mean, they're going to be on the hot seat pretty immediately. So you could argue that it raises the stakes, which is great, I think, for viewers and players and everything. But also, I think coaches you'll see a lot more maybe return for those coaches that are a part of historically big programs. They're not going to get as many chances, probably.
Yeah,
that's how I feel.
It's a very valid point.
Talk about a team that maybe did hit expectations. I'm smiling as I say this just because I know we've had a lot of conversations about this. May have to shout out a guy who we will have for some future episodes, Copeland. Talk about a team that did hit maybe win total expectations, Colorado, right? I mean, were they projected about 4 wins? They ended up getting about 4.
4,
so
they got their number.
Hit the nail on the head right there with Dion and the crew.
Yeah, Dion, I'm not sure he'll be on the hot seat for not making the 12 team. If they can get a bowl game, they'll be happy.
Yeah. It'll be fascinating to see what Vegas has for win totals for them this upcoming season. And honestly, would not be surprised if it's around the 7 mark from the standpoint that they're in the Big 12 this year. And I think the Big 12 is actually going to be fairly weak with Oklahoma and Texas leaving and adding Cincy and UCF or USF. I would not be surprised with the talent that they're bringing in from the transfer portal to see them at a 7 to 8 win team and Dion moving that thing well. But yeah, for them to go, what were they, 3-0 to start out the season? And maybe got 1 win in the last 6.
It's unfortunate.
It is unfortunate, but it's tough. They did play Dion came into the Pac-12 at a very competitive year from the standpoint from head to toe. It may have been one of the most in-depth or most competitive leagues in college football from head to toe. And so tough, you can't blame him for that. I think 4 wins is very impressive.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely is. For them, I mean, it's impressive.
No, I think that's the key, is specifically for a program like Colorado.
It's expectations, right? It comes back to it.
Let's be honest. In our lifetime, when have we ever thought about the University of Colorado?
I don't think about it. I don't think about it often. I'll say that much. But
No, I
yeah,
know. Only time I'm thinking about Boulder, Colorado is if I'm going skiing or snowboarding. That's about it. And it's really ain't for college football.
that's
And now
true.
they kind of changed the landscape. It was kind of frustrating, but big noon kickoff and college game day were there about the first 4 or 5 weeks of the year. And it was
Yeah.
fairly frustrating, but it does show prime time is there.
Yeah.
That's true. I mean, the only time I thought about Boulder was in the Chainsmokers song. Back something about baby pull me closer in the backseat of your Rover. That Halsey
Oh
Chainsmokers
man.
song. That's the only time. But I'll say this, and I just got to say it because I did joke about, and we can talk about Arkansas in a second, about Arkansas and Colorado possibly meeting in the Poopery Toilet Bowl this year. 4-8 programs heading to a fake bowl game, but again, Copeland, we love you, man, but we were right about Colorado not getting the 6 wins, and we were pretty confident of it too, and it did happen. So I love you, man, but we were right. So told you so.
We were, and unfortunately, I think a certain crew of us were pretty happy about it too. But it was so much hype around them, and I have a question for y'all. It comes back to expectations. Keenan, if the line is set at about 7 to 8 wins, and Colorado hits about 6 wins, are fans going to be disappointed that they didn't get 8, or are they going to be happy that they got 2 more than last and hit a bowl game? I even like something like that comes into play.
Yeah, it's amazing how expectations at a university can change so fast, right? And you're looking at 2 years ago,
Definitely.
you have one win, and you're talking about not 2 years removed from that season, and 7 to 8 wins, if that is the line, is not something that they're content with. And it's crazy how expectations can change that fast. But we're just in that day and age, and it can't. I think it's a double-edged sword, right? The transfer portal, the 12-team playoff, it can be a good thing, right? Because teams can boost themselves much quicker. You can get to that level a lot easier. It's a lot easier to make it to the college football playoff. But on the reverse of that, the expectations are set that you turn around a program like that. And if you don't, then you're canned. And so I think it's a double-edged sword on both sides. And Dion is the prime case study of that, from the standpoint that there's really the expectations are just so high, and he's got so many people coming in that the expectations are you win, and you win immediately. And he's been vocal about that. There's nobody in college football, or really across the landscape of athletics in America, that has spoken more about win now, win now, win now than Deion Sanders.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's true. It's crazy.
Yeah, I know Stephen A even mentioned possibly getting him in there for the Bama job, but not sure he was receiving an interview on that one.
Might have to wait for 15 years. Kalen DeBoer retires or something.
Kalen DeBoer will be gone in a couple. Then we'll get a new guy, but maybe he'll get it then.
Let's get a brief synopsis.
I'm just kidding.
As we head into 2024. How are y'all feeling about Tennessee, Arkansas heading into the offseason? Obviously, this is early season. We just finished college football, but heading into 2024 offseason, how are y'all feeling about your all squads?
Hank?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, from what I'm looking at today, and from what I know, is we've got a solid recruiting class coming in with some really talented guys, specifically a couple of big names, a couple of 5-star guys coming in, and one of those wide receiver, pretty excited about Mike Matthews. And to come in and join, who I think has arguably some of the biggest expectations that a young player could have. It's going to be Nico. Nico is going to be our starting quarterback next season. And I mean, I think that the fan base will expect a better season than we had last. And I mean, last season was pretty decent. So he's going to have to play really well. I mean, fans, I think, are going to want about 10 wins this year in the regular season, which, if that happens, I think we'll be a top 12 team and we'll be there. You never know how that works, but a lot of hype behind him. I mean, he was allegedly recruited at about an $8 million price point. So we paid him out at that point, and he's probably making that over his career at Tennessee, not just 1 year, but still unbelievable amounts of money for a football player, especially a college football player. And that's just a new era. But he's coming in, and in my opinion, you can't be successful without a quarterback. So our fans are excited. It's gonna be fun. I think we'll have the talent across the board. Have some transfer guys coming in, and yeah, it's I know I'm excited to kind of watch him out there and play with his talent level, and then some of our guys both sides of the ball that are younger, and we got some new blood going to be starting. So it's going to be fun, but we got a long way to go, and you have to train really hard to earn the opportunity to have a successful year. So it's got, takes an entire off season of hard work and a lot of preparation. But no, I'm stoked about it. I think we've got at least a hopeful future.
Yeah, you mentioned Hank being a more of a realist as a Tennessee fan, which I do agree with that, and I think that's actually a good attribute of your Tennessee fandom, is not necessarily being the classic. Tennessee fans sometimes do get a bad rap of being Auburn fan-esque, of and no offense to Auburn fans, but just the like or like a Cowboys fan type person, just these crazy expectations, and then well, they're not good expectations in the first place, not sure why they were there, and then not hitting
exactly
them, and or having a great regular season success, maybe not quite putting it together at the end of the season or whatever that may be. Well, from your standpoint, being a Tennessee realist fan, how was this season for you guys? Does this season qualify as a success, and what qualifies as a success for y'all next year if you're keeping that same realist mindset?
Yeah, it's kind of tough. I would say, this past season, I would have expected us to have about 8 or 9 regular season wins. I would say, I think we had a good team last year. It wasn't bad at all. I think Tennessee will always, up until moving forward with how we've seen the schedule change with the SEC, and now with Saban gone, is a huge effect on Tennessee, honestly, which, I look, it's you can call it whatever you want, but us not having to worry about playing a Saban-led Alabama is a huge benefit to Tennessee. But we played Alabama, Georgia, and Missouri, all teams that finished in the top 10. They finished in the top 10 of any ranking you look at. So, we have those 3 games. We lost all 3. That's an instant 9-win season. And then we took another, and I can't even think about it. We lost to Florida, like we always do. And so, I think if you look at it in that way, it's like, that's a really realistic expectation. Bama and Georgia were better than us. Missouri, that game got away from us. And then Florida, honestly, Florida's not very good, but they're our kryptonite. So it's kind of what you expect, in my opinion. I think some fans were frustrated, but I don't think anybody should have been shocked by our result. But I think you're looking ahead. I think I have no clue what Bama's going to look like next season. We play in Neyland next year, that game, and that has always been a loss for us. We've won 1 time in 17 years, and we have to start winning that game to have any sort of respect in national media and kind of respect in just football programs around the country. I think it all kind of relies on that game, but our schedule specifically next season is probably not as brutal as it has been previously. So, I'm hoping for 9 wins. I think if we got 9 wins, I would feel pretty satisfied. I think our team is good enough to get that, unless Nico goes out there and is just nothing to what we've expected him to be. If that happens, then I have 0 clue. But with our talent, we definitely should. I think we should be able to hit 9 wins. That's what I would say.
Is that across the board for Tennessee fandom, or is that the Hank Hayes realistic Tennessee expectation?
I think that's probably more realistic expectation. I think you'll see fans. I think you'll see a lot of fans calling for 10, 11 wins, having 1 or 2 losses, which I think is in play. I just don't think that's like the middle outcome. Personally, I think that's a bit of overachieving.
Yeah. Well,
so
I think it's good to wear that honesty on your sleeve. Keenan, you asked about Arkansas. Of course, we had a team that is never going to be expected to be at the top of the SEC West. Obviously, no more divisions and whatnot. But we had a team that obviously had some okay expectations, at least. Expected to go to a bowl game, definitely. And I know, many people were saying 7 to 8 wins was not out of the realm of possibility in terms of regular season. And the funny thing was, it really wasn't even out of the realm of possibility as far as looking at the scores of our games, losing to Alabama by 4, losing at home to BYU in a close one, which I can't believe we lost that one, losing at home against Mississippi State 7-3 in the modern day era. These are questions where you're thinking, how does Sam Pittman not really get fired? And I would say that the reason that he did not get fired is, of course, they pinned a lot of the blame on our offensive coordinator. But I think the big reason he didn't get fired is they're going to give him this trial year with Bobby Petrino, the one man who in the past, in the 21st century, the one man who's actually had some awesome success for us, where we had back-to-back double-digit win seasons, which is kind of unheard of for Arkansas. And so we'll see how it plays out. I mean, Bobby's by no means a guy who always wins. He's not a Kalen DeBoer always win guy, but he's a guy who can win. And so I think for next year, with Taylor Green from Boise State and with Bobby at the helm for offense, I would just say a win for me is just, can we score more points than we did this year? And actually let me enjoy a game instead of having to watch a 7-3 matchup. And if it means if it means that we go 5-7 and we just improve one win away and Sam Pittman is gone. I love Pittman. He's a great teddy bear type guy. I don't know how good of a football coach he is. That's fine. That's fine. I just need some improvement, because it feels like a regression more than anything. But I'll let Keenan, I'll let you speak to, or if y'all can ask follow-up questions.
Graham, I got a question for you.
Minutes, but
what's the line on wins that he has to hit to not be fired next season? Yeah. I mean, would you guys have 4 wins or 5 wins this year?
We had 4 wins this year. I think he has to. I mean, I think bare minimum, he's going to have to get us to 6 to get us into bowl eligibility.
I think so.
If he does, and with 6 in a bowl game loss, like a 6-7 season, I even kind of question. I mean, it's just not quite good enough. I almost feel like you need a bowl win. I feel like almost you need a bowl win unless you have like 8 wins regular season. Just you got to win. You got to win the SEC.
And I would say I don't think y'all can have any bad losses in there either. I think you're probably going to have
the BYU at home type stuff, the Mississippi State when they're the worst team in the SEC West at home and don't have their starting quarterback. I mean, it's just, I agree.
It's just fascinating, because I would have said 2-3 years ago, and maybe it's 3 or 4 years ago at this point, and y'all were top 20 team. I had a lot of hype around y'all. Pretty, I remember that Texas A&M game at AT&T Stadium was a barn burner, and you guys were top 15 in the nation at that point.
Yeah, a lot of hype, and then it kind of, I think it really fell from that was kind of our fall from grace, to put it some type of way. But I think a part of it has to just be, we love him, but KJ just probably teams know how to play him better, and I think maybe the surprise factor isn't there anymore. And I don't know how much better he really developed over time, unfortunately. But we'll see. I'd love to get to a bowl. That's really a good year for me. I don't know that a 6-7 year is good enough for Pittman, but it's good enough for me as a fan. I'll put it that way. Keenan, any thoughts on Penn State? I know we have about 6 minutes here, and we can kind of make final comments after that, but would love to hear. Obviously y'all had a great, like, if Arkansas had a year like y'all had, I'd be dancing in the streets, jumping in fountains. But from y'all's standards, how did you feel like it played out, and what do you feel like you're looking forward to?
I would say, to sum up, it's just a typical James Franklin year. I would say we're 23-4 in our last 27 games. All 4 losses. Well, if you exclude the Ole Miss game, all 4 losses coming to Michigan and Ohio State. We're undefeated versus everybody else. And so I would say expectations going into, I would say we underachieved in terms of expectations going into this past season. I think there was a lot of hype around quarterback, running back. I think our defense overachieved immensely. I think we had top 3 defense in the country. I think we were a national championship level defense. Offensively, we couldn't do anything. So, I think as a fan base, how do you balance that? You go 10-3 and you have a New Year's 6 game. Like, you should be pretty fired up about that. But I think ultimately not being able to meet Michigan or Ohio State in the last 3 years is pretty disappointing. So but also at the same point, you're talking about 2 of the of the top 5 teams probably in the country the last 2 years. So,
Yeah.
it's tough when you have to play them every year. So
Yeah.
projecting the next season, really nice. Obviously the conference is being shaken up and can be a pro and a con. Pro, we don't have to play Michigan next year. Con, we add USC and Washington, which granted, I think Washington will be a shell of what they were this year with DeBoer out and probably a ton of kids transferring. So, need to say they're probably still a top 25, probably top 30 team, but no, I don't think they'll be a top 15 team. USC to be determined. I think they'll probably still be a great team, and Ohio State will always be a top 10 team. So, I think offensively we got to change, in particular at the wide receiver position. I know we're coming up on our time. We got a new offense coordinator, so hopefully that will change things. It's not I think there's a multitude of things on the offensive end that need to change, from personnel to coaching to game plan, all of the above. So I think transparently, if we don't make the college football playoff, I think that'd be pretty disappointing next year. I think to make the college football playoff, you can't lose more than probably 2 games, maybe 3.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would say if we lost 2 games to make the college football playoff, we'd be fired up. I think we're going to lose to probably Ohio State, and then you need to run the table or probably lose to USC or somebody. So that's where I'm at.
That makes sense.
And let's rock and roll. Cheers to 2 out of 3 are our teams making it. And, if 3 out of 3 make it, then I will again dance in the streets. But
That'll be fun.
Anything's possible.
Anything is possible. KG, Kevin Garnett. Previewing towards the next little bit, Hank, do you want to do like a 20-second? I know we got 3 minutes left. Hank, do you want to do like a 20 to 30-second, just like quick Tennessee basketball recap? Keenan, you can say a few words about Penn State. I'll say something about Arkansas, and then we'll definitely comment on our alma mater before we send us out.
Yeah, no, Tennessee came in the season, big expectations. I feel like, honestly, for the past few years with Rick Barnes, just really consistent team. I think expectations as a Tennessee basketball fan are very high right now. We're consistently in the, we've consistently been in the top 10 the past couple of years. I think we're number 6 right now in the AP polls. Dalton Connect is absolutely unbelievable. One of the best offensive players Tennessee has ever had, regardless of past few years. So it's been really fun. I can't say I'm not really excited for our year. I think we are front runners for, right at the top of the SEC and could win it. So it's going to be fun.
Final Four, baby. Keenan.
Golly, that'd be electric if Tennessee made the Final Four. Penn State basketball, to be expected, losing our head coach, losing a ton of recruits, not very good this year. But I will say we have incredible ceiling and an incredible floor as well. So like we beat Wisconsin last night, doesn't come as a surprise. We have incredible talent. It would be electric if I think the Big Ten, honestly, this year is a little up in the air of there's just not a clear front runner of just like dominant team. So, I won't put it past us to make a little run in the Big Ten tournament. That'd be fun to do a run like we did last year, but we're definitely not a tournament team this year, and we're in a rebuilding phase.
All right, my 20 seconds here on Arkansas. We are weird. We beat Purdue in an exhibition game. We beat Duke in a game. We beat A&M last night, although Wade Taylor dropped 40 on us. We also lost to Auburn by 30. We also lost to Florida by 20. We also lost to UNCG at home. So we could be terrible. I think we could definitely end up being like 12th in the SEC. We could also end up being like 6th in the SEC and make the tournament. So interesting to see how that'll go. Yeah. But
there's no question about who is playing well right now.
Sanford Bulldogs, 16 straight, the true blue blood of college basketball right now. No question about it. All right. If you're a Furman fan, get out of here. We know who we're rocking with. And we'll put it this way. If they make it to March Madness, we're going. We're going, boys.
Yes, we are.
So
we'll be there. Punch the ticket, baby.
Cheers to it. Cheers to next episode. We might talk movies, whatever it will be. We're looking forward to it. Thanks, gents.
All right, boys.
It's been real.
Peace. See ya.
Peace.